Hi everyone, have you ever solved the problem of the longest common prefix in the array of the string? If no, now we can see how it can be done. But first, let's sort out with the conditions of the problem. For example, we are given such an array. And we must find the longest common prefix in this array. But what does it mean? What does a prefix mean? In this particular problem, a prefix is a sequence of letters that starts from the beginning of the string, and this sequence have to repeat in all words. So in this case, the longest common prefix is the string car. Let's take a look one more example where we will have such an array. In this case, we are given an array with only one element. And the answer for this case will just this single word. And the last case, when we are gonna consider, is an empty object. And for this case, we have to return just an empty string. So I think it's enough to start writing the solution. And I start from the creating a function called longest common prefix that takes an array of the string as a parameter called strings. And first, what I can do at once is write the two last cases that we consider recently. It's case where we have an empty object and where we have an object with only one element. Let's write it. And what we have to do further? It's obviously that we have to write two loops. One loops for setting the index, for taking a letter from the word, and the first loop for go through the strings, for getting each word from the strings and then getting from this particular word the letter by current index. So first loop we have for setting the index of a letter that we will take and compare with the rest letters from the rest words. And we can be sure that we have to start with the index equals 0. And at each iteration we have to increase this index by 1. But how long do we have to do it? How long do we increase this index by 1? Let's think a little about it. What we can find out before these loops? What we know about our strings after these expressions? Here, after these expressions, we can be absolutely sure that our array of the strings has more than one elements. So we know that we have more than one elements in the array, and we can come to the conclusion that the longest common prefix can be longer than the first word from the array. So we can determine how long our first loop have to work, and it has to work as long as the index is less than the length of the first word. And also we can use the first word as a source for taking letters by index for comparing with the rest words from the array. So let's put the first word in the constant variable called first word and replace it here. In the second loop, we have to go through the strings. And let's set this loop. And at each iteration into the second loop, we have to take a letter from the first word by current index and compare it with the letter from the current word. And if only these letters are not equal, I stop the loops and return prefix. But we don't have prefix. Let's create it. It will be with initial value an empty string, and I return it at the end of the function as a result. So if only the letters is not equal, I'll stop loops and return the prefix. But if you go through all words and at each iteration letters are equal, I have to add this letter for prefix after the second loop. So, in a few lines of code, we have solved this problem. Let's check our solution. For checking our solution, I am gonna use 3 examples from the beginning of the video. Let's check it. All tests passed. Awesome. So, see you in the next video.